By the time this story happened, I was a university student, going about my daily routine. My classes started in the morning and extended into the early afternoon, occupying most of my day. However, as a student, I knew the importance of finding time to relax and socialize with friends. So after classes, I decided to make the most of my free time by taking a stroll in the park with my friends. The park was sunny and filled with laughter as we walked along the tree-lined paths. The fresh breeze and picturesque scenery eased the stress of the day at university, and we cherished every moment together. After a few hours of conversation and laughter, we said our goodbyes, and I headed to the gym, looking forward to using my free afternoon to stay in shape. With the gym session completed, nightfall was approaching, and I returned to my home. When I opened my phone, I noticed a follow request on Instagram from an oddly anonymous account. The account had no profile picture and had a name that left me intrigued. I hesitated initially, but I eventually accepted the request and decided to take a look at the mysterious profile. While browsing the profile, something immediately caught my eye. The account had no followers but was following an astonishing 1,200 other accounts. This discrepancy was disconcerting, but I didn't think much of it at the time. However, a few hours later, around 11 at night, a notification flashed on my screen. It was a message from the same mysterious account that had followed me a few hours earlier. My curiosity got the better of me, and what I saw left me utterly perplexed. Inside the message were several pictures of me, all taken on that same day. The photos were from different moments of my day, some at the gym, others at the park, but the majority of them were at the university. My heart raced as I realized that someone had taken photos of me without my knowledge and was now sharing them. Fear began to settle in. I immediately called my friends to ask if they had also received a request from this eerie account. To my surprise, they denied receiving such a request. Worried, they advised me to report the incident to the police, which seemed like the only sensible option. With this idea in mind, I began to contemplate how to proceed with the report. However, before I had a chance to take any action, my life took a terrifying and horrifying turn. Minutes after ending the call with my friends, another message appeared on my screen. The content of this message made me shudder. It was a photo of my house, taken from the outside, with the light in my room clearly on. The stalker seemed to be getting closer to me, and panic consumed me. With trembling hands, I decided to lock the front door of my house while trying to control my racing breath. The darkness of the night seemed more menacing than ever, and I felt utterly vulnerable. Desperate and fearful, I rushed to my room and hid under the bed, hoping that the darkness of my room would protect me. Hidden beneath the bed, I quietly dialed the police, and they assured me they would arrive as quickly as possible. Minutes that felt like an eternity passed, and no sign of the police. When I considered stepping out, just to check if the police were approaching, a terrifying sound caught my attention. The slow creaking of my bedroom door. Terrified, I huddled even further under the bed, praying that the intruder wouldn't find me. It was at that moment that my salvation came from an unexpected source. The bedroom door opened completely, and a uniformed figure appeared at the entrance. It was the police. They entered quietly and found me hidden in my improvised hiding spot. The police explained that they had entered my house through a neighbor who was passing by and noticed the suspicious situation. Fortunately, this neighbor had a spare key to my house, as I trusted them greatly. The police searched the house but found no one except me. They did not spot the intruder anywhere. At the time of this incident, I was a content 24-year-old married woman, having enjoyed 3 years of marriage in the serene suburbs of Virginia, USA. My daily life was fairly predictable. It would commence with the routine task of dropping my 2 children off at school in the morning, after which I headed to my job as a cashier at the local Walmart. Nonetheless, a certain man began to feature prominently in my daily activities. His presence became conspicuous whenever I ventured out to the mall, went shopping at the supermarket, worked out at the gym, or took leisurely strolls in the nearby park. This man, tall with striking ice blue eyes and brown hair, appeared to be around 30 years old. What perturbed me wasn't just the frequency of his appearances, but the eerie sensation that he was consistently there, lurking in the background, silently observing and closely monitoring everyone and everything. Initially, I brushed it off as mere coincidence, suggesting that he might live nearby or that our schedules simply coincided, even though I found this increasingly peculiar. However, with each passing day, my unease grew. Whenever he was present, I felt as if he was analyzing my every move, his cold, unrelenting gaze seemingly penetrating the depths of my soul. Eventually, I could no longer deny the disquieting truth. This man was tailing me. He was not a mere passerby in these public places. With each encounter, he drew nearer, and I began to feel a rising sense of panic as I realized he was constantly focusing on me. My daily life became marred by fear, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was progressively closing in on me. My nights were filled with nightmares, and during the day, I was constantly on edge, scanning my surroundings for any sign of his presence. I was gripped by the fear of being under surveillance. One day, I woke up in the middle of a nightmare, gasping for air. My husband inquired about my dream, and I shared my concerns about the unsettling man. He reassured me, suggesting it was simply paranoia and that nothing sinister would occur, deepening my doubts about my own sanity. 3 days later, around 2:30 a.m., I heard footsteps in the garden. Initially, I dismissed them, thinking it might be a raccoon or some other animal. However, they persisted for about 5 minutes. My heart raced as I looked out the window and saw him in the moonlight, standing at the edge of our property, smoking and fixated on our house. Tired of this whole situation, I made the decision of venturing outside to confront him. I only decided to confront him because I felt safer on my house than on the street, which by thinking back now was a dumb decision. The air outside was cold, freezing me as I cautiously advanced towards the center of the garden, determined to finally confront the stranger who had haunted me for so long. As I inched closer, my steps barely making a sound, the man emerged from the shadows, fixing his gaze upon mine. He started running towards me, his pace accelerating with each step. I believed I was about to meet a grim fate due to my impulsive decision, and that I should have called the police instead. Just when it appeared that he was about to reach me, my savior appeared. The back door swung open, and my husband stepped outside, concerned, and asked, "What's happening out here?" The man froze in his tracks, his eyes locked onto my husband. For a tense, silent moment, we all stood there, facing each other. However, as soon as my husband moved closer, the man abruptly turned and disappeared into the darkness, vanishing into the night. Since that night, I never saw that man again. This story unfolds during my teenage years when I was a senior in high school. In our tight-knit group of friends, there was a girl named Letitia, whom I'd known for years. While we weren't particularly close, our social circles often overlapped. However, as time passed, something unsettling changed within her. She became an enigmatic figure shrouded in darkness. Our mutual friends informed me that she had delved deep into drug use following the tragic death of both her parents in a car accident a few weeks earlier. Once I became aware of this, Letitia suddenly began liking every one of my Instagram stories and messaging me. It may have been coincidental or perhaps not. She was an eccentric individual, so I often disregarded her messages, reluctant to form a profound connection with her. Subsequently, whenever I met with my friends and she was present, she couldn't resist staring at me and approaching me, which left me feeling anxious for my safety. Our friends whispered about her issues, but no one had the courage to confront her. That is until one day when she unexpectedly invited me to a party at her house. I hesitated, but the hope of reaching out to her, or at least understanding the extent of her problems, compelled me to go to her door. Upon my arrival at her house, I was greeted by the eerie glow of a single flickering porch light. The moment I entered, I had an ominous feeling that something was terribly wrong. The atmosphere was stifling, as if the weight of countless shadows bore down on me. The sound of my footsteps reverberated through the desolate house. There was no music, no laughter, just a disquieting silence that sent chills down my spine. I called out for Letitia, but received no response. Each room I entered was as empty as the last. Panic began to grip my chest, and the unsettling realization that I was alone in this forsaken place took hold. In the dim light, I spotted Letitia standing in the hallway, her bloodshot eyes and disheveled appearance revealing her transformation into a drug addict consumed by her addiction. She locked the door behind me, and at that moment I understood the horrifying truth. I had walked into a trap. Desperation overcame Letitia as she sealed the door. She began to scream at the top of her lungs, asking me to do unspeakable things that I won't disclose. It was a nightmarish scenario, and the only thing I knew for certain was that I needed to escape. I won't divulge the details of what transpired next in this story, but I'll simply say this. I found myself trapped in a house with a woman who was not in her right mind, and the choices I had to make for my future were beyond anything I had ever imagined.